All right, welcome to week number 4. Obviously, this week is going to be short because Mother Nature decided to completely flood us with ice. So I hope everybody's well and safe and at home and warm for our AMI day, which is Wednesday. So technically it's Tuesday night, but I'm going to submit this on Wednesday for you guys to see. So this week we're getting into what's called rhythm making of ourself, or in other words, using the patterns beat maker function on your Soundtrap device. Now, all the in-class lecture stuff I'm still going to actually do with you, but once, if we ever come back to school, we'll do it together in class. For today, I'm just going to give you a brief tutorial on what to do so that way you can kind of get started on the project and spend your time today, at least for 7th hour, getting some things started for our project this week. So if you look at Canvas, I'll have already posted this for you so you can see it. Your week number 4 audio project is going to be using the patterns beat maker to create your own drum parts. So when we come into class, I'm actually going to demonstrate on the drum set some things that you guys need to see. But as far as making your assignment work, we're just going to go straight to Soundtrap, and there's some key things I need to show you. So let's get started here. So once you get into Soundtrap, we're going to create a new assignment. Make sure you hit Music Project. We're not doing any podcasts. And then from here, we're going to hit this middle tile that says Patterns Beat Maker. So the Patterns Beat Maker is going to come up and it's going to look like this. Now, here you're going to have all of these little tile things. Now, each one of these tile things are going to be areas where you can start plugging in drum set sounds, okay? So right away it gives you a tasty machine type, which I guess is just the sound that they want to call this first drum kit that's available. And if you look here, you're going to see 3 different instruments: kick, snare, and hi-hat. Now keep this in mind, most grooves are going to be 3 different drum set instruments. You're going to have a cymbal choice, which will be like a hi-hat or a ride. You'll have the snare drum, which is always going to be like the claps, and you'll hear that in a second. And then you're going to have the bass drum. So the 3 primary drum set groove instruments are bass drum, snare drum, and hi-hat. With those 3, you can make a sweet groove, kind of like this. I'm going to use my nifty little beat pad machine here, but you can hear the 3 different instruments working. Here's your hi-hat sound, here's your bass sound, and here's your snare sound. The 3 of them together okay? So those 3 sounds create most drum set parts, and especially for this week, this is what you're going to need to know. So the kick, remember, is going to be the bass drum. The snare drum is kind of like the clapping sound that we're going to use. And then the hi-hat's going to be this very fast cymbal sound. Okay, so the first thing you need to know, what we're looking at here, this number 1 is referring to measure number 1. It's the same number 1 that's up here in the timeline. The 2 right here is measure 2, which refers to, again, measure 2 up here in the timeline. So you can see that this is kind of like an expanded out version of this musical measure, and number 2 is an expanded version of this musical measure. So keep that in mind as you start to create. Okay, the first rule we need to know is, and this is actually funny, most rock music always begins with a bass drum, and then that started in rock, and then it became something that everybody is kind of accustomed to. So the first sound we want always is going to be a snare drum. So a kick drum. So we're going to put a kick drum here on beat 1. So once I click that tile, you can see that it's now white, and a red thing appeared there because now we're actually creating our drum set groove. Now keep this in mind. All the snare drums should be on 2 and 4. 2 and 4. I'll explain what that means. In your musical measure, you have 1 measure, but within this measure, you have beat 1, 2, 3, and 4. So when you hear a drummer kick off a song, they're like 1, 2, 3, 4. What they're talking about is this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Now within beat 1, you're going to have 4 different options to play. If you play all 4 of them, your beat 1 is going to be very fast sounding. It's going to be do-do-do-do, which is okay, and I'll show you what that sounds like in a second. So this is all beat 1, measure 1. This is beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4, and all of these are within measure 1. So the kick is going to be on 1, and then the snare is on 2 and 4. So here is actually beat 2, and here is beat 4. The reason why I know that is because, remember, this is measure 1, this is 1, this is beat 2, and it has 4 different options. Beat 3, 4 different options, and beat 4 with 4 different options. So here's 2 and here is 4. The snare drums go on 2 and 4. Now if I put that bass drum on 1, and let's say I'm just going to put another one here to make it look symmetrical on beat 3, now we have a little bit of a drum groove going. I'm going to click play so we can hear that. Okay, so it looks like this tasty sound choice that we have is going to give us claps instead of a snare drum, so that sounds pretty cool, but that'll work. So here we have our first little example of a rock groove in Patterns Beatmaker. Now the hi-hat or cymbal sounds, I'm going to do this, and I want you to try and copy this on your first run if this is your first attempt at this. Those of you who are repeat offenders, this will all be easy for you. You'll know what to do. So I'm taking my hi-hat and I'm going to put it on 1. I'm also going to put 1 in the dead center, and then again on 2 in the center, 3 in the center, and 4 in the center. Okay, so now I have this sound. Okay, and that's what I really like to do now. The cool thing and the creative part about this is now you get to go and put in other ones wherever you want. Let's try this one. I don't know, maybe it'll sound cool. Maybe I'll put one here too. Let's see what it sounds like. That's pretty sweet. I think I'll keep it. So what I'm going to do up here then is I'm going to take my little curly Q or repeater cymbal and drag it out to be, oh, let's make it 8 measures long, which means I'll drag it all the way out to the 9. So now it sounds like this. Okay, and now we're rolling with the drum groove. All right, so for your actual assignment, it says here, you're going to need 3 differing drum grooves. So we have 1 already in our soundtrack assignment, so now we need to create another. So I'm going to hit add new track here, and now it's going to come up because it knows you're using Patterns Beatmaker. It's going to come up, which do you want to use on your Patterns Beatmaker? Well, we're going to choose drums, so go ahead and choose drums. It's going to come up with another track, but this one is also tasty. I'm going to change this to, I don't know, any one of these will work. You can go as far forward or backward as you'd like. Let's just see what Toronto sounds like for now. That sounds like fun. Now down here, there is a scroll bar that can go all the way down your song. I'm going to scroll all the way back to 1. That way I start in measure 1. Now I have my Toronto drum set. I'm going to go ahead and put a kick on 1, snare drum on 2, again snare drum on 3. And this time, the hi-hats, I'm going to choose all of it. So I'm just going to get crazy here. Let's try it. Who cares what happens here? Maybe something cool will happen. All right, so let's see what this sounds like. Oops, I didn't have this one muted. So I'm going to go back here and actually just headphone this one so all we hear is the new one. That was my fault. That was actually playing both drum grooves. Here is just the new one. All right, that's cool. So I'm going to go ahead and extend that out and make that 8 long as well, but I'm going to go ahead and move it to the end of my first one. That way now I have 8 measures of this groove and then 8 measures of my new one, giving me 2 differing drum grooves. So here's my first drum groove going by. It's just this one in red. And then my second one is going to be this different one here. For time's sake, I'm going to speed up. Here it is. And that definitely works, okay? So now, like the assignment says here, you'll need 3 differing drum grooves, and all the drum grooves must be made by you. That's what we're doing in Patterns Beatmaker. And then it says each drum groove is a different genre. Well, let's go back to my song really quick and make sure I've done that. This groove, to me, sounds like some sort of stadium hip-hop, maybe at a basketball game. And then here we've moved to a different genre. That could be more rap or hip-hop oriented. So now I need a different genre for my third one. So let's add a new track. Let's hit drums. And this time I'm going to try to find one that sounds for sure different. Oh, let's see. Auto. Maybe that one's good. I'm going to come back to the first measure here. This time I'm going to actually take the snare drum, and here's a trick, guys. I'm going to put it on beat 3. So normally snare drums go on 2 and 4. You got to remember that. But if you want to slow things down and have a slower type genre or slower type beat for a genre, you can put just one snare drum on 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the same hi-hat pattern I did for my first. But because I've got that snare drum now in the 3rd spot, it's going to sound a lot different. It's actually going to sound almost too slow. I'll show you. Let's go back to the beginning here and see what it sounds like. I'm going to headphone it so it's just by itself. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to go and repeat it a little bit here so you can hear how it repeats. Go back to the beginning here, sorry. Yeah, slow jams. Come on. Anyway, so now we have a third differing drum groove. I'm going to go ahead and slide this over to the end so I have 3 different ones. And just for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and shorten these up to 4 each and scrunch them all together here so that way you can at least hear them all 4. Expand this. All right, so now we've got them all 3. Make sure I get the headphones off. And here is a potential project for this week. Groove number 2. Definitely switched genres there. It wasn't really the same. It sounds, I would say a little bit slower, and then check this one out. Definitely on the smooth jams here. All right, so what I did was bare minimum here. What you get to do now is you get to add instruments with this button, and you can actually put in shakers or tambourines or actual hand claps or different sounds, and then just picking and plugging and experimenting. A lot of this stuff is you're just gonna plot random things and see what it sounds like. If it doesn't sound good, erase some of them and try it again. By the way to erase one of these blocks is to simply just click it again. So if I were at the beginning here, oh, where'd it go? Let's say I wanted to get rid of this first bass drum here and put it here. I'll just click it off and then click it on there and it'll change it slightly, okay? And then you may have something else going for your beat. So that's essentially what we're up to. Today is being Wednesday, and with it being the AMI day, I would only expect you to spend about 15 to 20 minutes after watching this video trying to piece together some grooves, maybe have 1 or 2 ready to go for the next time we see each other in class. But that's going to be it for this week as far as Wednesday. This audio project will still be due on Friday, and I'll walk you through some more details when I see you in class on hopefully Thursday, if not Friday. See you guys.